Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another review for you. This time not for a normal book, actually I was going to say a very rare, but actually the very first review on this channel of a graphic novel, and that is for Bloodborne, The Death of Sleep, written by Aleš, as well as there's several other illustrators that are credited. I will put them somewhere on the screen here if I remember to, because I want to credit them as well, because this was not just, a written, it's also a lot of artwork. But yeah, this is the very first graphic novel that I'm reviewing on the channel, and I'd like to do more of them. I'm just not much of a graphic novel or comics reader, but I'd like to get more into them. This one I actually bought this month. I got the box set of the first three Bloodborne graphic novels, and I figured that, I realized this week is the 10-year anniversary of the game releasing, and so I figured, I usually don't read stuff so soon after I buy it unless it's like something I'm super hyped about. I was planning to start these graphic novels next month actually, but I figured, I could read the first one this month and then release the first review to coincide with the 10-year anniversary. So that's what I'm doing. Bloodborne, for those of you who don't know, is one of my favorite games ever. It has one of my favorite fictional settings in all of fiction, basically. I just love the setting. The game is it was the first kind of Souls-like game that I ever played, unless you count Jedi Fallen Order, the Star Wars game, which I played a few hours of. But this was the first one that I ever really got into, and I love it. It is a lot of fun. It is challenging and but still very satisfying and enjoyable. And like I said, I love the story. I love the lore, all of that stuff. And so for that reason, I wanted to check out the graphic novels because I just want more of this setting, more of this story. And I really wish that they would do some more with Bloodborne, because I mean, it's awesome. But yeah, so I checked out the first graphic novel here, so I'm going to talk about it. So it's a little weird to talk about because it's not, a regular novel like what I usually talk about on this channel, but I'll still be approaching it fairly the same way, talk about the stuff I liked, stuff I didn't, kind of general thoughts, all that kind of thing. First things first, as far as good stuff, I have to point out, as I already said, lots of artists worked on this. I think at least 3 or 4 artists worked on this. I don't know exactly how comics artwork works. I think one person was the actual artist, and then some people did the inks and the colors and different things. But the artwork in this graphic novel is fantastic. It is extremely good artwork. I'll throw up a few examples on the screen as well so you can look at them, just of pictures that I took of the graphic novel. The artwork is amazing. It is not only great artwork on its own, but it also captures the look of Bloodborne, captures the atmosphere and the feel of it, has that kind of darkness, that kind of dreary, like, the hyper violence, but also just the sense of horror, and in some places like just the sense of just depressing doom and gloom in some places. And I think it does a really great job of capturing the setting, and it's just amazing artwork in general. So I have to comment on that because this is, a visual medium, and the artwork, there was several points where, I was going through it and I would just sit and look at the artwork for a minute because it's great. It's really well done. I also, moving into like the actual story stuff here, once again, kind of captures the feel of Bloodborne very well. This is very kind of, in some ways, very heavily drawing on the actual game of Bloodborne, not just the setting. Because in the game, much like other Souls games, you die, you respawn, as you do in most games, but in the Souls games, it's part of the gameplay, that's part of the just the Souls formula kind of uses death and respawning in a particularly unique way. And this comic also reflects that, where the character dies, you see you died, and then he comes back, he respawns in the Hunter's Dream like you do in the video game, then he goes back down into the city and all that stuff. So that was really cool, but also other things about just the game, like you can the part of the thing with the video game is the mechanic of insight, in which the higher insight you have, the more likely you are to see the true state of the world, the more exposed you are to the true nature of the world. And there are hints of that in this comic where certain characters can see things that others can't, and that's represented in the comic. That's really cool. Just different things like that, where it's just, you know, really interesting ways in which the actual mechanics of the game are implemented into this completely different format, which just as a fan of the game, I thought was really cool. In terms of actual story, this is kind of similar in setup to what it is in the actual video game, where you're following this hunter who is in Yharnam, and they have been told to seek pale blood to transcend the hunt, much as you are at the very beginning of the video game. And so they come across this child that is being protected by other hunters who bleeds white blood, which essentially is kind of insinuated in the game to be indicative of pale blood or of being connected to pale blood. And so he's like, I found pale blood. And so he then has to go on this journey with this child, learn things about the child, learn things about the world, and things like that. And it's really interesting. I really like the way that it approached different aspects of the lore. I really enjoyed the way that it approached like the pale blood thing. I enjoyed the way that it expanded on the lore in the video game. There are characters from the video game that either directly appear or are mentioned. So for example, in The Hunter's Dream, you have Garamond and the doll, or in the actual like real world, characters like Jura are mentioned, for example, from the video game. So there's different connections with the lore, with the setting, different things, the characters to the game, which is really cool. And the concept behind, you know, the actual story here, it's simple, but it's well done. And I really also liked how cryptic and mysterious it is. You don't get a lot of answers with this comic. You get some answers here and there that are kind of drip fed to you, but it's very like, it was a little bit of a negative, which I'll get into in a couple minutes here, but it captures the vibe of the game very well because the game is very similar. The game is similarly cryptic and doesn't provide a whole lot of answers. So it's very similar in that way, where it has this very kind of ambiguous ending. It has like this ambiguity to things about this child. You don't really know entirely what's going on with them. You don't really know exactly who they are, things like that. So there's cool little things like that in here that really kind of captures the sense, the same sort of sense that the game portrays, which I enjoyed. Yeah, just generally, I enjoyed reading this. It was kind of a fun little story set in this world, very evocative of the setting, very atmospheric. The art was great. Cool little bits of world building and lore that were used very interestingly. Things that I wish, honestly, could be expanded upon. Like, I'd love to get, you know, a full, like, big volume graphic novel telling this story, because I think there are more places that it could have gone potentially or been expanded on. But as far as I'm aware, this is all there is. I think all of the graphic novels are basically standalones. If I'm wrong about that, you can let me know in the comments, but I think they're all kind of standalone. So as far as I know, there's no follow-up to this or anything like that. But yeah, it was a good, enjoyable little story that really captured the vibe of the game very well. But as far as things I didn't like, the main thing is just that it doesn't provide a lot of answers. There were questions that I was left with at the end that it makes sense why they're not answered, because that's kind of Bloodborne's thing. But I also, like, I wasn't fully clear on certain things. Like, I would have liked to know a little bit more what happened next, a little bit more about who this child is and exactly what's going on with them. Like, for someone like me who is pretty knowledgeable about the lore of Bloodborne, I can kind of put the pieces together and kind of make assumptions, which is, again, part of the whole thing with Bloodborne and with the Souls games in general, is putting the pieces together yourself and trying to figure things out yourself and just going off of your own theories and assumptions. So I have my theories on what this child is and who they are and why they're important. But I would have liked to get a little bit more of that. But that really is the only thing. It just felt, a little undercooked to me. Felt like it could have used a little bit more to it, but that really is the only issue that I had with this graphic novel. Overall, I did enjoy it. So that pretty much wraps up most of my thoughts here. I thought it had a good story that could have been, you know, a little more fleshed out, but for what it was good. It was great artwork, very atmospheric, all that stuff I already mentioned. Really well done in general. Good kind of first entry into this graphic novel series. I think that it works very well for it to be presented the way it is, drawing so heavily on the video game, even in terms of things like mechanics, like the hunter presented in this comic is basically very similar to the hunter you play as in the video game. So I think it's a very smart way to start this series. Kind of, I think some of the other graphic novels tell like particular backstories behind certain characters and things like that. And I think that this was a good way to introduce it because it is so closely tied to the video game. I think it's kind of a good starting point. So as far as a rating out of 10, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Didn't like blow me away or anything necessarily. Didn't tell the greatest, most compelling story in the world, but it was enjoyable. It was fun. I enjoyed reading it. It was nice to kind of get a little bit more of this setting in this world. Look at some really cool artwork, get some cool lore bits and pieces here and there, kind of make connections for myself between parts of this story and parts of the overall lore that I'm already aware of. So it was fun. It was enjoyable. I had a good time with it, and I'm looking forward to reading more of these graphic novels. I'm thinking I'll probably read the other two here pretty soon. So that pretty much is it for this review. Let me know in the comments if you have read The Death of Sleep and what you thought of it, if so, or if you've read the other Bloodborne graphic novels, what you thought of those, or anything like that. Let me know in the comments what you thought of them, if so, or if you're a big fan of the video game, let me know what you think of the video game. You know, what are your favorite bosses? What are your favorite areas? Anything like that. Let me know in the comments too, because I'd love to talk to you guys about that as well. So that pretty much is it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.